Sean, before you get started, at some point I will wave two fingers. It is not to signify victory, it is to let you know that you've got 2 minutes left.
That's fine.
Superb. I'm going to mute myself. Take it away, Sean.
Right. Hello, everybody. So today is quite an interesting and special anniversary day for me. So I thought I would talk about myself and why my story should be really important to you. And the reason why is a year ago, actually probably a similar time of the day, maybe half an hour earlier. This is a photo of me a year ago. It looks like I've just done a 24-hour day in a shift, and it was awful. And the reason I looked like this is because I was a logistics manager in a multinational corporation, and I was an IT key system user. I was in charge of the entire inventory function. I was in charge of the warehousing functions, the inbound and outbound logistics, HSE and first aid, all the things that a logistics manager would normally be in charge of. But the clincher was I was also doing a lot of the tasks on this list. What was going on for me with my health? Well, the list is long and distinguished, and there's probably a lot of things that I've left off of there. I had IBS, lactose intolerance, suppressed appetite, memory loss, attention loss. The list is so long, it's ridiculous. And all of this was just down to the work environment and the requirements of the work that I needed to get done every day. I mean, I was waking up in the middle of the night with nightmares thinking about work. So I wanted to talk about this because there are key indicators for people where if you have staff, or you might be suffering from some of these things yourself and you don't realize until someone else points it out to you. I mean, I knew I was in a pretty bad place, but it was only really when Laura Ann and my doctor stepped in and made me stop. I wasn't always that way. This is a picture of me when I was 6 or 7 years old with my sister and my 3 cousins. Happy-go-lucky child, never very, very healthy, always engaged in the things that I was doing, always asking questions. So how did I go from this happy little boy to that unhappy looking man? Well, there was a lot going on. My home life was really great, but work wasn't so good. I was working in a place that was very dark. I had limited access to natural light. I was working long hours, especially in the winter. I would go for months without actually seeing daylight. I'd be at work before the sun rose and setting off home after the sun set. The workloads were crazy, and because the workloads were crazy, I wasn't able to take breaks. The warehouse environment, as many of you know, warehouses are always dusty and dirty. I didn't have much support from the superiors that I needed. The company that I was working for had a lot of change, and it seemed like change for change's sake. So one day someone would have a good idea that desks should face in one direction. So you change all the desks, and then the next week they'd say, no, actually we think it's better the other way, and you change them back. And then 2 weeks after that, you'd end up switching them again. There didn't ever seem to be much forward planning to the way things were done. The reactive culture and the micromanagement was a big problem, and doing daily P&Ls seemed to put more pressure onto people and myself than was really needed. And because of those kinds of micromanagement and whatnot, there was a lot of high staff turnover. People couldn't really do very much forward planning because you never knew what was on the horizon. And the staff retention was very, very low. I remember at one point, the company lost 60 years worth of 60 years worth of skills and development in 1 week. And a lot of the time when the staff retention was happening, you'd hear conversations with people saying, well, if so-and-so doesn't like it, they can just leave. And then following that, you'd have a tick box culture to try and make things right when things had gone wrong. So although I deal with nature and natural elements, the driving factor for me to start Tiny Jungle was really this. And my time a year ago where I just didn't know whether I was coming or going. I didn't have any lust for life. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't know how I was going to fix things. And it just ended up me being signed off. I was taking more medication than food I was eating. I had to take antihistamines, and actually my antihistamines were 10 times dosage of what a normal person would have to take. I'm still in recovery. I still have bad days from it, and it's a year later. So if you can work with people and you hear people that are not happy or grumbling about things, listen to it and think about what might be going on, because something that may seem trivial to you might be very important to that other person. And for me, it ended up me having to go through a costly grievance process, costly in time and for the company money. It ended in my termination of my contract and my redundancy. And they lost 14 years of key experience. I mean, all the tasks that I was doing, I knew them backwards. I knew how to do everything as fast as physically possible. And it just walked out the door, which no company ever really wants. You think how much it costs to replace staff, and especially at this point in time where lots of people are furloughed, and we're looking at how to look after this good staff that we do have. If you've got someone that's got 14 years of experience, you want that person to stay with you, because they're the people that are going to be able to help you out of these very tough times. So I wanted to talk about all of these things and just highlight, what happened to me, so that if you encounter someone that perhaps exhibits any of these kinds of things, or in conversation talks about heavy workloads and whatnot, perhaps you can offer them some support. Because we need to help each other and we need to be mindful of each other. And this is not for me, it's not a plea for pity or anything like that. It's purely to highlight something that happens to a lot of people in this country and all around the world. So now my life is very different, and I get to play with plants and animals and discuss how things can be better for people using my 5 key elements to biophilic design, which, as you may have heard in previous talks, are light, color, water, noise and sound, and plants. So working with those things, it helps me every single day. I feel a lot better for myself, and even being able to sit with the fish tank behind me, I know I get a lot of compliments and interest from people when I chat to people on Zoom about this. It's really nice to know that there's ways to help people. So if you know of anyone that needs help, or people that sound like they have something underlying but they can't quite put their finger on, give me a shout and we can talk about it, or speak to those people and find out, because it might be, as I said earlier, it might be something really simple that you can nip in the bud. I certainly didn't get to where I got to overnight. That was a long period of time that took me to get to that point. So that's my little story, and that's how I ended up getting into Tiny Jungle and wanted to help other people. So yeah, that's me.